Hey, it's Jessica DeMassa with WTF Health. Joining me right now, I have Ari Tulla. He is the CEO of Quest Analytics. So, pleasure to have you here.
Hey, wonderful, thank you.
All right, so for everybody who's not familiar with Quest Analytics, real quick, talk about what you guys do.
We work in building provider networks. We work with health plans, with regulators, and with many providers. And the whole idea is that we are trying to build these accessible networks of doctors that we all can access and get care when we need help.
Okay, and then the idea is to not only build this accessible network of doctors, but to be able to apply all of the fancy technology and AI on top of it to be able to do cool things. But we were talking a little bit before this, and you had said to me that there's a fundamental problem that healthcare needs to fix before we get there. And so talk more about that. What do we need to do as an industry before we can get to the cool AI tricks?
Yeah, so what I mean by that is that it's great to work on the cool stuff, and we all want to build the next future. We want to make this world a better place. And I've been now battling for last 8 years with these fundamental building blocks. For example, how do we make sure that all the information about doctors is accurate? How do we know what the phone number is, the address, this silly stuff that is still today broken? And we also look at how do we build these networks in a way that every provider who is in a network actually has some patients around them. Or in another way thinking about it, you have a member, a patient, and if there's no doctors around you, you're not going to be very happy with that health plan or that service. So we are trying to make those basic building blocks, the foundation, to work, so we all can then innovate on top of them and build the cool stuff that really makes a difference.
Why is this so hard? When it's I can Google something and it will tell me not only is it open, but it might be busy right now if I go there. But yet in healthcare, the phone number of the doctor's office is not right. I don't understand. Why is this so hard?
So we could talk about it for a long time, and we could kill people. They could be sleeping because it's so boring. But the quick story here is that you have a very high consolidation that happened in the last few years, where you have these health systems and groups who are buying independent provider practices, and the dilemma has been that there could be a small practice or so forth that was acquired by somebody else. And nobody ever really updated the information. And you can have groups that have hundreds of doctors that are practicing in dozens of different locations, and they can be in different locations on Monday and different locations on Tuesday. So every doctor is on average in 2.7 locations, and that makes it just this fundamentally difficult cat and mouse game where you try to find where they are, and then they moved on already. So it's just kind of silly. And but there's somebody was even saying that, hey, let's put the GPS tracker on the doctors so we know where they are. Maybe that's too much.
Yeah, I think that's probably more expensive than it would want to be too. But no, I asked the question and only half in jest, because truly it's one of these fundamental problems. And if you talk to, as I do, a lot of innovation folks or chief strategy officers at health plans, it's they're still working on fixing the provider directory and digitizing this. And it's really, if you're a member in a health plan, it's that's the thing you want, is to be able to find a doctor, and it's that is so hard. So you and I have spoken before, and we've talked about this issue. Do you think that we're making progress on this at this point, and if so, how much progress have we made? Are we close to cracking this?
Yeah, I think it's really not a problem that you can crack. It's more like a process you have to build. So we have now spent a lot of time building the process. We work with many health plans. Almost all the health plans in the nation work with us on network adequacy. We are now starting to work with them on network accuracy. So we are kind of leading this pathway, and it's really about working together, building a process, and getting everybody aligned. And now I'm so happy that CMS and others are also kind of finding this out, and they are creating incentives. There's a new legislation now in the process that might actually bring in also the providers, giving them a reason to do this. And it's just kind of the way of the land, that you have to have regulation, and you need to have all these stakeholders together and align the forces. So it has taken a long time, but I think it will be solved in a moment. And we are one of the leading companies in this, and there are a couple other ones who are doing it as well. So I think it will be fixed in a few years' time.
So, I want to ask you now about the conversation around this. So, how has this changed? Because at first it was we're going to digitize this. And then it was well, we need to fundamentally redo your entire process. And now you said you're moving from network adequacy to network accuracy. And so I think that's an interesting shift in what you're talking to your clients, these health plans, about. So what else has changed in the conversation? Are there any new constraints that you're trying to overcome, or how has the conversation moved on?
Yes, my fundamental focus at Quest Analytics and before that Better Doctor has been about how do we help everybody access better care when they need help. That's been the fundamental driving force. And now we are getting pretty good at getting the data right, making sure that the providers are there when you need them. So those are basics. But now we're talking about how do we build a higher performance network? How do we build a network that you as a patient, you go and you look for a doctor, let's say in a provider finder at the health plan. How do we make it so that you can find a provider right for you? How do we make it personalized so that when you look at the provider, you get a different list than when I look at the provider? It's dependent on your history, it's dependent on who you are, and dependent on your preferences. That's how you buy. Your Amazon looks different than my Amazon.
Right.
So let's make it that happen, and we are trying to build these tools slowly for the plans and others that they can actually implement these. We all want to see this as consumers.
How long?
I mean, it will take long.
Right.
I mean, some of the companies are ahead of others. There are a number of health plans who are already working on this. They are spending a lot of time and money because they know that there is this disruption happening. There's Google had a great talk here yesterday. They are doing a lot of things in healthcare. Amazon is striving and doing a lot of stuff. So health plans know they need to improve. CMS and the government knows we have to get better at this. So I'm trying to be a kind of facilitator and enabler, building tool blocks that and tools chains that can help these companies do it better.
Okay, so last question for you. I'm just curious from your perspective. As far as how things are changing, the big tech companies coming into play over here, is there anything that's got you concerned? Like, what's keeping you up at night when it comes to the challenges that you're facing leading Quest Analytics?
Well, I think for me it's been a joyride in a way that you start a small company and then you grow and now we are kind of maturing to be a mid-sized company, having hundreds of people employing them, having profitability you have to think about. So that's of course difficult and different than I had in the past. But from the technical perspective, I'm really hoping to see more of these fundamental innovation and changes. So I'm so excited that you have the likes of Google coming in, and they are thinking differently because they don't have the legacy. They are just coming in here and they are deploying the things they have deployed elsewhere successfully. And I think that's something that is very difficult for us to do as an industry because we are pretty heavy and grounded with the history we have and the ways we operate. So it's hard for us to reinvent the wheel. And now we are looking at this new entrants doing that. And I'm a bit afraid that we will have a bit too much disruption because healthcare is healthcare. It's difficult, it's complicated, and people die. So there will be a lot of, I think, setbacks happening in the next years when we have new people coming in, breaking things too fast. And that's, I think, the worry I have a little bit.
You know what, honestly, I think that's very well said. And you're actually the first person I think I've interviewed in hundreds of interviews who's worried about too much disruption and the negative consequences of that. So, interesting perspective. Should we end on a high note? How's your business going? I feel like we should ask you one more question so we're not ending on a down note here. So how are things going at Quest Analytics? You said you got 100 people working for you?
We are about 150 people today.
Okay.
Just today.
How are you guys funded? Are you raising money right now?
And we are not raising money. We are funded by private equity company called Vestar Capital. So we are doing pretty well in that department. We are profitable, so we are not in an immediate need of funding. I think the high note, we just opened a new head office yesterday in Kansas City. And we are like many other companies that really looked around and decided that we need to have a home. And our home is in Midwest. And we did a lot of calculations and math around this, and we found out that that is the best city for us to build a headquarter and really hire and grow there and become a real player in that ecosystem. Because as a company, you want to think about the future, and if you are in the Bay Area in New York, you are one small company among thousands. But in a city like Kansas City, we can actually become one of the most exciting companies and making a difference for that society there.
How exciting. Well, congratulations on your new home. Kansas City, you've got a great guy and a great company housed there now. Awesome. We'll have to come take a tour of the new facilities.
Every day.
I love it. All right, Ari, thanks so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to talk to you as always.
Cool.
Thanks. I'm Jessica Damasa with WTF Health. Thanks for joining us.